Welcome to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm your host, Tricia Carr. Thank you for joining me on this glorious day. I'm very excited about this week's episode and broadcast. By the way, if you're listening to an archive, know that you can watch our show live on Facebook or on ubnradio.com/channel 1. You can also watch it on Twitter, basically, on Periscope. My handles there are at CharmedLife1111 and also at Tricia Carr Charm. That's basically how you could find any of my social media. And you can also catch the archives on the podcast outlets, any that you watch. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, of course. I don't know what else, Jarvis. You don't know. Good morning, Jarvis Essex, my producer. He's like, I don't do that part. I make it look cute. Live. I make it look good. Do y'all know, if you watch the videos, all of the imagery that's put up, that's Jarvis just in the moment, just in the flow, just working with spirit, just like doing his healing upon y'all. So thank you so much for that, as always, Jarvis. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I was going to say that you can also watch it on YouTube, the video archive. And I'm actually putting up a ton more videos on my YouTube channel, and I'm about to start putting up some special episodes on the podcast feed. So I guess I'm saying, please join me all of the places because I want to connect with you. And one other thing that I want to tell you about before I bring on my very exciting guest today is my Empowered Empath and Highly Sensitive Intuitive program is open for registration. And I am so excited to do this program again. And I'm doing it in a different way where we have a really involved coaching situation going on. There's education, there's coaching. I love this work so much because it's actually understanding my empathic and sensitive nature was the portal to me changing my life, opening up to my spiritual abilities, changing, I would say, identifying with my higher path of ascension. And, you know, I think that being able to look at this empathic nature in this from the spiritual perspective is really important because, well, quite frankly, when the empathic or sensitive nature is not functioning properly, we are engaged in a sort of subtle codependency. I say subtle because the work, the way that we look at it in this program is different than what you might look at, the way you would look at it in some kind of traditional therapy, which is very important as well. Cognitive behavioral therapy, which is focusing on mind and the mental body. We're looking at a much more subtle expression of that and in the energy body and in the energetic frequencies. So honestly, it's really important for those of us who are finding themselves in the position that being sensitive is actually painful. That's not true. You know, there's no spiritual truth. There's no creator energy in the idea of being a martyr in order to be a healer. That's not true. It's illogical. This is an ecosystem and we are all connected. There is actually no separation. So if you were to victimize yourself so that someone else could be healed, that's just a fallacy. No one's getting healed. That's a subtle codependency. I'm going to stop talking about it. I love this work and I'm really excited to connect with those of you who are listening who are going to be joining the program. And if you've been interested in working with me, this is very much alive. We're going to be working very much together, face to face. When I say that, I mean like video on the Zoom face to face because anyone can join. It's not going to be a local program. But if you're local to Los Angeles, stay tuned because I am going to be doing a lot of in-person speaking and teaching engagements coming up really soon. So do go to my website to look at it. It's a very affordable way, I was going to say, if you've been interested in working with me. And I'm super excited to meet you. Oh my gosh, I just love meeting people who've been listening to the show for a while and then they book a session with me. It's just so amazing because you probably on the other end, you think, because I've done this as well, when I've booked with someone that I've already gotten to know because of their media, and then I show up to work with them and I feel like I already know them, but yeah, I feel like I already know you when you show up. It's really cool. And so it's not just one-sided, it really is two-sided, this work that we're doing together. So go to my website, triciacarcharm.com/empath. And I do have an early bird cost up there up until April 15th for the people that I know really want to be able to work with me and who are going to be listening and like really eager. I want to say thank you to you who would sign up. And that's what I have to say about that. And now to my very exciting guest. He's been on the show before and he has a wonderful, wonderful YouTube channel, and he's a channel and a shaman. His name is Sam Fox. Welcome back to the show, Sam.
Thanks so much, Tricia. Lovely to be here.
Sam, you have been doing really great. Well, let's see. I think were you on in October of last year, about 6 months ago?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so about 6 months ago. But in that time, you've really grown in what you've been offering in the channel that you've been. Are you still doing it as a podcast as well?
Everything's kind of changed.
Okay.
I went through a really big shift at one point.
Well, let's
At
hear
one
about all of
point,
that. I'm gonna give you the stage. Let's hear about all of that shifting and all of the 1 points. And I got to take
yeah,
off my jacket. I'm
it's
so
actually
excited.
pretty simple and crazy. When I started off, I was just kind of talking about my awakening and what I was going through. I just wanted to give people a place where they could, interact with somebody else who was going through it. I felt like that was my calling. And slowly over time, I started to really, something kind of started to change in my brain. And I started to get the idea that I was going to do channeling or something like that. And I tried one channeling video and it actually went really well, but nothing really happened with it with my channel. And then I kept on doing my normal thing. And then I had this amazing interaction with Abby Normal, and we did a podcast together. And through us talking, I mentioned to her when we were doing our thing, because she does spirit journeys, and I was like, right when we were doing it, I was like, when you were talking, I had this big picture of this being that was over my body. And she was like, oh my God, what was that? And we kind of went on a journey together. She kind of just guided me through it. And right away, she was like, oh, you have a gift. You should do this. You should do this for people. Wow. And right after that, it kind of changed everything. And I realized that it was a gift and that I could actually do it pretty easily. So I just started to really explore that and do that every day and start to do that on my videos. And that's kind of the direction that the channel's gone right now, is just sharing kind of the information that I'm getting from the universe, the downloads that I'm getting, and kind of relaying those messages in the ways that are fun and hopefully relevant and stuff for me. So
that's amazing. And how long ago was that at this point that shift happened and that event happened?
Right around January was when I started to really kind of get into that and start to put out videos of where I was actually like really getting into the channeling and getting into the communicating with you could say other dimensions, the spirit world, whatever it is that you like to call it. I like spirit world. Spirit
world, that's nice. I like that. And so if you're listening to an archive, we are now in April of 2018. So Sam is talking about 3 or 4 months ago, I guess. Is that so? That's incredible. How exciting is that? That's really great.
It's been so lovely. Honestly, the best part has been, it just feels like I have a personalized kind of mentor or mentors all the time. To be able to just, to always have somebody to ask if you have a question about your life, if you need some wisdom or something. It's nice to always have that. And I think the biggest thing that kind of always it comes back to for me when I tell people about this is I think everybody has the ability to do this. I think we all have guides with us. I think we can all connect to our higher selves. I think we can all connect to the spirit realm. I think it's just something we haven't been taught how to do. So I think that's one of those things that I always like to mention when I say, it seems like, I have this gift, but I really want to remind people that I think we all have this gift, and I think we all get these messages. It's just we haven't really been taught how to interpret them and how to really see them as information coming from another source. We kind of, think maybe it's our unconscious mind, or maybe it's just, the universe pushed us in a direction. I think even though it is that, at the same time, some of those things are actually coming from intelligent beings outside of us. That's the way that I like to interpret it anyways.
Oh, completely. And not only were we not taught to interpret it or engage in it, we were taught to the contrary. We were conditioned. It's not a part of the context in which we are reared. So we're asked to emphasize other things that are the norm of how you survive today. And that's fine, that's good, but it's just simply the ignorance of past generations, how we shut things down so much. And so now if you have children, you will teach them the skills to actually, hey, this is what's going on in the world. If you want to figure out how to feed yourself, here are some of the options and some of the skills. Millennials are always criticized for, kind of scoffing at the greatest generation, or the boomers think are the more important kinds of life skills, but we just really need a balance of it. And I think the cornerstone of it, though, really is the most natural part of us, which is the spiritual nature. Of course, obviously, I believe that. That's why I'm here doing this thing.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. And when I came into this, it's so interesting for me because I'm kind of like, isn't this what we all want? Don't we all want the answers to any question we want? Don't we all want kind of somebody who can guide us so we can live the best lives possible and like ultimately like know what we really are and have all the answers to the universe? And it's almost like this strange thing for me. It's like, oh, this is what I wanted. This is like, what's better than this, than having the answers to the things that you want in your life?
Yes. You know, I actually had this experience of having that connection when I was a youth, when I was in the church. I came up, when I say I came up, by the way, y'all, I brought myself up in the church. My parents didn't take me to church. That was my rebellion. I went to church, but it was because I was seeking, spirituality. I was seeking how to grow spiritually, and that was the paradigm that was possibly the only other thing I did was the convenience store had these little scrolls that had the horoscope on it. So I had all of this. I loved them. I got those. They would cost $1 and I'd get them and I would just read them and I was so fascinated with them, but I didn't know how to seek spirituality otherwise. And I had that connection. And the guide that I connected with outside of just the inner being, the one that the intelligent being I connected with was Jesus. Again, that was the only one that was
Really?
That was cleared, that was on the white list, that wasn't given like all of the shame and fear surrounding it. So I had Jesus as the guide, and I had my intuition really. But then the dogma of the church and the limitations just started to choke that out, and I didn't know what else to do. And so I felt a bit disconnected from it for a little while because I didn't know how to, although I would still do some of the practices that worked for me while I was in that. I would still pray, and I would do, some different things that were keeping me afloat a bit. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get back to you. So tell us about the, now you said, first of all, I do want to backtrack a little bit because you mentioned the person who you had this experience with, and I didn't catch her name very clearly. Could you tell us her name?
Oh, yeah, Abby Normal. She has a YouTube channel also, and she has a lovely channel where she just pretty much sits in front of the camera and interacts with the spirit world and just gives downloads from the spirit world. That's kind of how I found her. So.
Oh, cool. That's great. Abby Normal, everyone. Go check her out. Maybe
awesome.
I'll see if she wants to come on the show sometime. She sounds awesome.
Lovely.
And tell us about, would you like to talk about the guide or the guides or the being in that particular? I'm sure there are plenty of people going like, who was it? What does he look like? Or what does she look like? Or what does it feel like?
Yeah, the way that it started for me was really interesting. It started for me but this was before kind of anything. I would just get this kind of sense that I was connected to some kind of being. And at this point, I was really I was doing research into kind of alien stuff, and I was really attracted to the Arcturians. I felt like I was connected to that race for some reason. And I just had this feeling that this was like an old Arcturian friend or something was bridging this connection between me. And I didn't really know that it was happening, but I just kind of had this sense that it was happening. And sometimes what I would do is either from him or other guides, the way that it started was I'd just write it down on a piece of paper, and I'd just be like, okay, I'm going to channel whatever is going on with me right now. And I'd write it down, and I'd show it to Taylor, my wife, and she'd be like, whoa, that's pretty cool stuff. And, it started pretty slowly. This happened like once every, I don't know, couple weeks, a couple months. And I didn't really know what it was, but I just knew that it was something outside me. But I thought this being was bridging this connection to me. And then over time, different guides started to come in, some coming in and out. They looked in all these different ways. And it's kind of settled out now where I have kind of a relationship with some very specific beings, like my higher self. I have a very kind of intimate relationship with him. Interestingly, you mentioned Jesus. I have actually a really good relationship with him too. I think he's just a lovely, wonderful, amazing being. I'm not religious at all, but I love Jesus. He's a lovely dude.
Yeah.
We were joking about getting an I Love Jesus t-shirt the other day. I was like, that'd be awesome. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And this the other being that I have a pretty good relationship with too is this one that I was bridging connections with at the start. And this is a being called Lord Arcturus. It's actually he's a well-known kind of Arcturian being, and he's who I do my energy reports with. So I do an energy report every month, and I'm kind of it's such a weird thing to say. Honestly, I feel weird saying it, but I'm kind of like in another place. I'm with him on a spaceship, and he's doing kind of like an interpretation of what's going on Earth with all of his kind of what he has access to. And that's what I'm interpreting when I'm doing my energy reports. So we're kind of analyzing the energies that are going on the earth right now.
That's really cool. It doesn't sound that weird to me because, well, Jarvis always tells me when we talk after the show, he's like, you can't say that to other people. And I was like, but what I was going to compare it to is, I mean, obviously a lot of the things that I do, but in particular when I'm working with animals, because I work remotely with the animal before I get the human in the conversation, and we meet in some kind of happy place. So we'll meet basically usually at a park or some kind of grassy area that the animal likes to be in, or sometimes it's in some special area that they have created. But it is like it's an astral plane kind of place that is where the animal wants me to come and meet them. And that's where we do our work. And, if it's a dog in particular, it usually tends to be out on a grassy, because sometimes they want to play fetch or they want to run around for a while. That literally happens before we actually can get to talking.
That's cool. Yeah. I'll have to try that.
Yeah. You would be I'm sure you'd be a really great animal communicator. You have that sensitivity. So, but yeah, you can connect with animals, and you can connect with animals out in wild nature that way as well. Excuse me.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I've tried it a little bit, and I can get, sometimes there's communication, sometimes there's not. So that could be a cool way to try it out.
With your own, you have a dog? Is that right?
My parents have a dog.
Your parents?
I'm pretty close to, so
okay.
I do try sometimes, but I'm almost so close to the dog that I don't even feel like I really need to.
No, it's true. That's what I was going to say, is that if you wanted to practice or begin understanding how to have that type of communication, it's usually easier to start with an animal you don't know. It's someone else's animal, and a domesticated animal that another human can validate what you're hearing. And the way I describe it is because you are so they're basically an extension of your body when you have a relationship with them, and you're so connected you can't really distinguish their what I want to say, they're like their literary voice inside your own mind at first. But if with another animal, it's really obvious because you don't know them. I liken it to me touching my own arm, and I have to really kind of focus in order to, feel that I'm touching my own arm. But if a stranger comes up and touches me, or they even get in my energy field, and I'm like, oh. So then you can transplant that skill that you practice with another animal, and you could do this with wild nature as well, with a tree. Just the way that you are receiving the kind of channeled information from guides that are in spirit world, you can receive that kind of channeled information from a flower or a tree. That's quite true. It's really amazing, the stuff. I've learned more from trees and butterflies and other parts of nature than I have from kind of humans. I'm sorry. Did I say it? I said it.
I'm not surprised at all. And that sounds lovely. That sounds like a lovely way to do it. I kind of feel like sometimes with my own dog too, it's almost like she gets the sense that we're like already communicating. So when I try to communicate, it's like, what are you doing? Let's play right now. Like, what are you wasting your time trying to communicate with me right now? We're already doing it.
Totally. No, and that's actually a lot of the appointments that I have. The animal will show up and be like, why did she call you? And it was because she wants to talk. She talks to me all the time. Like, what? But then they usually explain to them like the love behind it, and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
And animals aren't as chatty. They're present. So they, if you tap in and you're like, how's everything? They're like, well, how does it look? I'm lounging in the sun. Like, that's it. That's what I have to say. I'm saying it. They're not going to tell you, well, last week really sucked and you didn't give me the right food. And, that's not how they are. Yeah. Not like, anyway, sorry. I've gotten on a tangent about animals. That's unusual. That's weird that I did that. Let's get back to, so Lord Arcturus is sort of like a master guide that you work with. And so that's really amazing, but that your relationship is so close in such a short period of time. But, as I've been told by my guides, it doesn't actually take time, it just takes growth. And sometimes there's a lot of grace in the fact that growth happens over time because we are physical after all.
Yep.
And, but I know a lot of people who are interested in what you and I are doing and interested in probably at an awakening stage, whatever it is, but they have fear about being able to connect with other consciousnesses and different kinds of manifestations of spirit. So what advice do you have to someone who is interested in connecting with an alien? Or, that's a really, I don't even like to call them aliens because they're like, well, there is no space and time. I'm here with you. No one's alien, no one's foreign. But an interdimensional or just another kind of consciousness.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about it is I don't think there's like one right way to do it. I think the big thing I've learned about it is like there's so many different ways to do it. You can do it through your third eye, you can do it through your mind, you can do it through your heart, or a combination of them, or you can leave your body, or you can leave your spirit. And I've seen a lot of people do it different ways. I think the most important thing is just to kind of trust your intuition and kind of see where that leads you to. I think there's a lot of good people teaching how to do it, but I don't even think you need that. I think you can just trust your intuition on kind of just trying it out and just kind of intending to connect to these beings and see where that leads you. See if it makes you want to write something down. Maybe you want to connect to your heart space and just imagine it in your third eye. Something that really worked well for me, this was something that Abby taught me, was I just started to, I'd sit in a room and I would just imagine myself walking around the room and walking around the space and going into my kitchen and stuff in my spirit body. And this helped me to get like a really good sense of the kind of spirit space. It's kind of like a different spatial sense.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of the spatial sense that I connect into every time. So this kind of little exercise of just getting outside of my body, feeling the textures around the room, feeling the texture, trying little things out, seeing what I can do. It just allowed me to remember like that space more, so I could just connect to that space that is kind of not really my imagination. It's kind of like this different space. It has its own flavor to it that's a little bit more real and a little bit more solid.
Mm-hmm. Well, but did you not have any fear that you had to overcome at any point? That's a beautiful explanation of how. I was just wondering if you had, and maybe you don't, because you just were going about it in complete love, and so you never had any fear about who you might connect with. I just know that a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know,
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Luckily for me, and this is a really, I think, big one. One of the first, when I really got into it, before I did, I had a lot of interactions with some negative beings, and they were just, I was kind of attracting them myself, but I think that was a reflection of where I was at in my life and kind of where my learning curve was. I think for me to interact with those beings, I learned a lot, even though it was really hard. But as for kind of like navigating the spirit realm, Abby Normal taught me to connect to my heart space before I go. And I noticed that since I've done this, I kind of do it naturally now. Every time it anchors me in a certain frequency, and I literally haven't had a negative experience in the spirit realm since doing that. So it's just a little thing. I love it because it's so simple. I don't, for me, it does. A lot of people, use white light and stuff like that, and certain things, but that's too much effort for me. And it's really simple. I just connect to my heart space, and for whatever reason, that I just feel like it anchors me in where I really want to go, what beings I really want to be with. And it's just a certain frequency that I don't even think the beings that I wouldn't want to interact with could even be a part of. So that's worked wonders for me, and I haven't had any problems since I did that.
That's wonderful. Yes. So basically, we always use the portal of love, and then that's it. That's simple. That's simply it. Now, it is a reflection of where we are when we don't understand that quite yet, and so we, are just doing a little bit more educating and dwelling in love in order to be able to heal that understanding and that orientation. I think that's about it. And I like to tell people also that it's just to know that we're talking about non-physical, and so you know what I mean. Like, it's not like, they could be here right now. Those bad guys could be here right now because there's no here really. So you're not really any more vulnerable as long as unless you're afraid of it. You know what I mean? So when we activate fear about it, now we're vulnerable. But if we recognize, well, oh my gosh, it's way more dangerous to be walking down a busy city street because someone could accidentally hit you with their car or intentionally shoot you with a gun. And you don't walk around with that fear, and you don't have to walk around with that fear in the spirit realm either. Even more so, it's even easier in the spirit realm because you can just find love, and now you're in a completely different space. I mean, energetically speaking. So yeah, that's great. I'm glad. That's fascinating, though. I know a lot of people would be a little bit morbidly fascinated with the negative beings that you interacted with. How long ago was that occurring for you?
Oh, that was probably like a lot in between the first time we talked, so around like September to December. So maybe like span like 6 months ago. I don't know. For me, I really felt like it was, and I've heard this from a lot of other people too. It was just, one, it was like a reflection of what was going on inside of me, but it was a really good learning experience for me to not be afraid of them, or to know I can deal with it, even though like it could be emotionally super annoying and even like, you know, disastrous sometimes, just to know that it can't really hurt me. It's not going to kill me. And that, you know, it taught me a lot of good lessons of, you know, how I can actually deal with these beings, and what they actually are, and what their effect can be on me and stuff like that. And,
yeah. Yes, because everything is a reflection. Everything is created by the frequency and the vibration that we're holding. And so that goes for the physical life as well as the non-physical. And, you know, we are also talking about conditioning as we started out the program, talking about being taught to the contrary about these abilities and the connection that we have naturally. We're also taught that our mind is very weak, and that's what we're actually fearing. We're fearing that we can be overtaken when actually we are our mind is not weak. And any example that you can pull up about someone who has gone crazy or something like that, there was a very intended path that led them to that. That's just the truth. And we just send compassion that way, but it isn't something that you just wake up overnight and now you're possessed the way that the films tell us. It's actually not that easy. And I'll say this just as a sort of counter evidence to it, that there are people who are kind of really into the dark stuff, and they really kind of covet, and they have this negative, you know, kind of hunger about, I should say this lust for being able to connect to a negative being in a way that they would be overtaken. That's actually, there are people like that. It's not that easy for them to do that either. As much as they are really trying to connect with that kind of negativity, it doesn't happen in that way that the movies show us, or that we've been taught that we are so weak and we're going to go crazy. Really and truly, it's not that easy.
Yes.
So you guys, go for it.
I totally agree. There's so much fear that we've given ourselves around like demons and negative entities and stuff like that. And, you know, it can be annoying, and they can, you know, it can seem pretty negative, but there's some different takes that I like to take on it, and some that I've heard that kind of hit home with me. One of them being that some demons or negative entities might even be there to help you with a certain energy that's going on within you. This is kind of something that I noticed within myself when I was doing a lot of healing and I was purging. It kind of looked like negative entities or demons outside of myself. A lot of the time when I'd see the energy inside myself, what would happen is I'd be like, okay, I don't need this energy anymore. And I'd look at the demon and I'd just say, thank you. And he would just leave. So it wasn't like he was there to kind of like do something negative to me. It was almost like he was there to almost help me or kind of harbor that energy. And the other thing that I like to believe, you know, a lot of time that's like life being the mirror. We kind of attract what's going on within us. So I think something that can be beautiful about these demons is we can really, it's almost like they can give us a reflection of what's going on inside of us. So it's almost like they're here to tell us, hey, this fear that you're feeling outside of you, this is going on within you. So if you can use that as a way just to look within what's going on in you, and you can say, oh, I'm blaming this thing for being that fear, but that's going on within me. And I found when I can deal with that inside myself, then that demon's not scary anymore, and it probably won't even show up in the first place.
That's fascinating. I love that. Because when you shifted and you said thank you, well, that shifted to love, and that's why you were no longer aligned with the frequency of that negative energy or negative being or whatever it is.
Yep.
You actually loved the demon, and the demon was like, you know, the dark cannot comprehend the light. That's true.
Yeah, he was just, and even I found a lot of them were even pretty gentle. Even they're just like, you know, even like a bow, and then they're out of there, almost like where we're serving each other for the length that we're serving each other, then they're out of there.
And I actually talk to my clients about that when something shows up that is not so, you know, there's just like in the emotional body, you wake up with stress or anxiety or depression or whatever, or some kind of issue that's in the emotional, you know, experience. I tell them that, you know, the emotions are messengers. They aren't you. They aren't really your experience. You have them. They don't own you. They are tools. They should be paid attention to. But if something that is like a negative emotion comes up, then you can choose to pivot to, I'm looking this in the eye so that I can see how I'm ready to release it, rather than being afraid and have resistance to it. So
Totally.
those emotions are demons as well.
Mm-hmm.
What a wonderful practice. It also reminds me of another practice that I've sort of modified from the Hawaiian culture called Ho'oponopono. And you go through a series of, sorry, I'm blanking on it. You know what I'm talking about, right, Sam? I'm sorry. Please forgive me, but I change it to, I forgive you. Thank you. I love you. And
Lovely.
so if you're doing this with something negative and, past experiences in the life that have been traumatic are very much like those demons. And if you bring forth someone or something that was that demon for you, when you get to the place of being able to thank it and love it, wow, huge healing, big time healing.
Totally. I totally agree. And then I find for myself the tricky part sometimes is bringing in that authenticity into those, because I totally agree. And then sometimes it can be really easy for that little soul to be like, I love you, but you're really like, get the hell out of here. And that's kind of like the real, I find, mastery around it.
It is.
Like, how can I authentically feel good in my life, feel good about these negative things that are going on, kind of.
It's so true. Forward. That's the real hard work. Yeah, because sometimes if I start that process and I'm like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm not sorry to you. You sorry. Okay, no, that's not helping. No, I'm being silly. But,
yeah.
We have a caller. Shall we take a call, Sam?
Yeah, sure. Sounds lovely.
Great. Oop, beep. Hello, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Who is this?
Hi, my name is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. We have Sam Fox on with us. How are you today?
Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Sam. How are you? I'm doing good. Calling from rainy Seattle.
Always. Just about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited that I was able to get through. I was just wondering if you have any messages from my guides.
Okay. Do you want to set a little intention around it? Tell us if there's a particular area. Since we're in a limited, more of a mini kind of session, I like to ask you to. Yeah. What area?
I guess career-wise, I just kind of started a new business and a little anxious about how everything is going to go.
Okay. Sam, do you have anything for Nicole?
Yes, I can give this one a shot for you, Nicole.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So I'm getting the vibe of maybe higher self. So this big possibility is your higher self is really fast. So I'm just going to kind of spread it out for you here. I'm getting a real kind of energy of security right now.
Mm-hmm.
The message is one of finding security in your path. Sometimes in life, there can be time to take really big risks. And sometimes in life, there's time to find a path that's secure where you can feel really emotionally stable on. So the best advice that we'd give you today in this business of yours and going forward is to really find a path for yourself that's stable and that's going to give you the emotional stability that you need to go forward in your life.
Okay. I think that makes sense.
Great, good. Well, I'll add to it. As I tapped in, and when you were just talking about the new business and all that kind of stuff, I picked up some Fae and elemental energy around you, and particularly of the Sylph orientation or the air kind of Fae, the air elemental. And they were talking about making sure that your energy stays light, that your outlook is playful, and to have levity to it. So even in the message of stability, that stable path is taken with a step that is about joy and play. And it feels like you can really, to me, I can really feel you're like, oh yeah, I forgot to play. Like, you know what I mean when I say that. You can feel that. You're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this because it's fun. Darn it, I forgot. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
It does. And it's funny because my business is actually, it's with children. And so sometimes,
there we go.
I kind of forget that, not why I'm doing this, but I get caught up so much in like the running of the business and the business aspect of it that I don't just, have fun with these kids and appreciate, why I started this in the first place.
Yeah, and it will bring you very present. And I like, that Sam's guides brought through that, the encouragement about the business aspect of it, and you're doing really well. I think that part of it you can rest really assured in, and it feels like you almost spend too much emotional energy worried that you didn't do it right, and you've already done everything right. The structure is set in, and you're doing really well on that. And then to come really present and just be a child yourself, like this playful energy. That's the whole reason that you're doing it. And I know what you mean. Like, it's not that you forget, but your emotions almost forget for a moment, and the presence, the ability to be present in the play. But play, light. And you have those you have those elemental guides that are all around you, and no wonder because elementals love children and or bless people who take care of children the way that they bless people who take care of nature and animals. So I would connect with them too.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Tricia and Sam.
You're welcome.
Go, Nicole.
Thanks for calling, Nicole.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. That was really great. Is that now, I'm sure people would be curious that when you give that kind of insight, is that in particular, do you connect with Lord Arcturus in that, or is it just, do you have anything that's going on clairvoyantly? How is your process? People are always curious about what you experience when you're giving guidance like that.
Yeah, so usually when somebody else asks a question, I try to connect to their guides. So in this case for Nicole, the interpretation I got was this was a message from her higher self.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Cool. So, and how about in the functionality of it is, what kind of, is it clairvoyant? It sounds like when you work with Lord Arcturus, there's a lot of clairvoyance. Obviously, all of the clairs are kind of firing for you.
I honestly haven't looked into those terms too much.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not even really sure.
Oh, yeah, and you don't need to. By the way, I just know that people are curious about what someone else is experiencing when they're having that. When I say clairvoyance, I mean like in your mind's eye. So you have visualizations when you're on the spaceship. So you visualize it in your mind.
Yeah, for me, like I'm such a feeler. Mm-hmm. So the big part of it for me is I'm just kind of really feels like energy, and I'm just kind of interpreting the energy. But a lot of the time, mm-hmm. I like to put some visuals to it because it can help me kind of get a little bit of a picture mm-hmm. about it, and it's nice to be able to give somebody a picture too. So sometimes I'll go into the visual space of it, but it really just feels like I'm interpreting energy mm-hmm. and then just spitting it through my mouth in the most accurate way that I can.
Yeah, that's clairsentience and I lead a lot with clairsentience as well, but sometimes it does come through where you feel like you're hearing the actual words in your mind's ear. Is that for you as well?
Not for me. So for me, it really feels like an energy, and it feels like then it's coming out in my words. And
then you interpret it. Okay. Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
That's really cool. And so what was I going to ask you next? I was going to ask you next about the other kind of. So you're doing the YouTube channel and the podcast. You said that some things changed in that. What's going on with that part of it? How people can actually connect with you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So with the podcast, it's changed a little bit. I've changed it to, it's kind of like spirit journeys with friends now. So it's kind of like a podcast still. We just kind of hang out and chat about whatever's interesting, but what we do too is we go on a little spirit journey for that person, and they can just ask me to interpret whatever they want from the spiritual realms. And been having a little bit of fun doing that, just to kind of change up the podcast a little bit.
That sounds great. Are you working with people, like client people? That's actually a really valid question for me, because I also, I could be working only with dogs. But I mean, are you working with the public, I should say? Are you doing one-on-one? Are you opening yourself up to the audience to be able to ask you questions live while you're doing a video or anything like that? Yeah,
so I do one-on-one Skype sessions kind of based on special request right now. So if anybody's like really interested, they can go to our website, mspirituality.com, just contact me through the contact form. But for me right now, I'm really finding my place in all of this and where my energy is. So I'm taking that on right now, but I'm not really pushing it. I'm really feel like we're focused around like the videos right now. I'm just creating really beautiful videos where my passion is right now. And it's kind of, I kind of like just people finding me right now And I can work with those people who really want to work with me, and I can just put my energy towards the videos and just really getting some beautiful messages out to people. That's what I really like to do.
That's really lovely. And the videos are beautiful. Sam is a filmmaker, you guys. So find his YouTube channel, Modern Spirituality. Is that the only platform you're on for videos at this time?
That's it.
Okay.
I love YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
I know they're kind of cracking down. The algorithm has gotten a little weird. I posted a video about my father's death and, my experience surrounding it, and it got flagged because he used the word death.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
I was like, okay, my father's passing.
Wow.
But, again, it's algorithmic, I guess you would say. So it's not like really someone really looking at it with full discernment. That, that's not as much of a problem probably for you and me, more of a problem for people that are doing other things, I think.
Yes. I haven't had any problems yet, luckily, but I have seen, it seems to be a theme happening right now in the world. So hopefully that all eases up.
Do you think that YouTube is still, this is slightly off the spiritual side of things, but not really, because we're talking about connecting with one another and social media. Do you think that YouTube is still going strong as a medium for us?
I personally love it more than pretty much anything right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I really love it. I really love that it's just a way for everybody in the world to be able to access really beautiful things for free. I still use it for the main way for me to like learn things and connect with people.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know. I really love it, and I'm passionate about it right now. We'll see where it goes with everything happening with it right now, but I think it's beautiful, and I really like it a lot.
There's such a catalog. I was actually listening to Dolores Cannon. I don't know. I think this was a talk that she gave in 2011 or 12. I can't remember. And she said that people are asking, what are the secrets that, all of the beings have been telling you or telling, her through her clients. And she said, it's all on the internet now. They're not secrets anymore. Yeah. You can find all of it. So that's pretty cool. I think that is really contributing to the truth of the fact that we're ascending. The planet is ascending. We're no longer kept separate from, we're not conditioned and then kept separate from the truth of who we are or what the universe is. I mean, we are conditioned, but we can access it right away. Sam's giving it out, y'all. They didn't chain the Bible in the basement of the church anymore. It's all coming out through Sam's YouTube channel. So.
Oh, thank you, Tricia. It's amazing. There's so many lovely people doing amazing things on YouTube. I think it's really contributing a lot to amazing things in the world. Hey, there's me and Cam too.
That's Cameron. Awesome. That's Cameron Gelman. He's been on the show a couple of times. He's a really, really dear friend of mine. I haven't seen him in so long. I'm getting a little sad. I miss him. Hey, Cam, you have to watch this one.
Cam's lovely.
I know. Isn't he amazing? Well, let's talk about the energy. I think we have enough time to talk about the energy that's been going on. You say a lot of people are offering a lot of things. There's so much. People are not just awakening, but they are like exploding into their truth, channeling. So much channeling going on, which is wonderful because I think it is a perfectly natural and amazing gift that every single one of us has. And so what's up with this energy? We're in the midst of what we are calling the event, which is dispensation of a lot of energy that is helping us to ascend, a sort of concentrated hit, I would say. How is this coming across in your life, in your experience?
Well, I totally agree with you on all that. In my life, it feels like there's just really big going on the earth right now. It feels like the energies are just like blowing up. I don't know. For me, honestly, what I can say about it is it just feels like everything's changing. It feels like, it really feels like whatever the core kind of frequency of what we used to be is just changing. Whenever I feel back into the past, even like a month now or a year, it just feels like we're living in such a different reality, and every day it feels like it's changing faster and faster. And I feel like this month, it's just such a big month energetically. It feels like there's these massive waves hitting. It feels like there's so much good coming in, but there's so much being uplifted at the same time. I get so excited about these big months, but I forget a lot of the time that when things change so fast and so much good enters, that a lot of the time the opposite happens at the same time too. So I've just been having this incredible month of this. I've been feeling better than I've ever been feeling, but I've also been having like a mini dark night of the soul at the same time, like every couple days. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on? I feel so good. But then I'll be like, oh, I can't take it. It's too much. And then I'll be like, oh my God, I feel so good. And I don't know, it's just been incredible, but it's also been really, really intense at the same time too.
Yeah, so with you on that. I even thought, I wrote in my journal yesterday, Dark Night of the Soul, and I haven't really experienced, you shared on the last time you were on the show that you experienced that. I guess my 20s were kind of a dark fortnight of just a decade of darkness, but it didn't, you know what I mean? Like that was different. That Dark Night of the Soul in specific, I felt like I uttered those words to my journal yesterday. But what's weird about it, I just uttered it because at the same time I feel great. And I'm like, it's not really, like it's not depression, but there's something, I think it's just those demons that are showing up that we're releasing. Jarvis is nodding his head. You've been feeling the same way? Get on the mic and tell us about it. No, he doesn't want to. Why do you do that? He always has something to contribute. This beautiful, wonderful man sitting over here. But Jarvis is highly empathic too. He's an empath like you and me, and very, very sensitive. He's a healer, so he's been feeling the same way as what he's saying. Yeah, these waves of energy that are coming in, and thank God I haven't had a lot of events that are, like overt. It's all very internal. Is that how it's worked for you? Because a lot of times when things are happening, then it shows up in the life as an event too. And that hasn't been happening. The life has been going really well, but it's internal. And then actually it's been coming out of my body. I've been having some physical symptoms too, and just really trying to being grateful for the physical symptoms telling me that I need to open up more and release resistance more intentionally.
Yeah, it's been like pretty much like riding a wave for me, is what I feel like. I've really been in touch with my guides the whole way and asking them about it. And what the information that I get back a lot of the time is that when it's kind of like things coming from darkness to light. What I feel like is almost like old parts of our reality that were stuck kind of beneath the surface, the old fears and stuff, for them to release themselves, they don't just kind of disappear. What I feel like a lot of the time is when a new big energy comes in and it feels so good, what happens a lot of the time, I feel like shortly after that, is something will come up to the surface. And I'm really sensitive, so I feel these things like a lot. And what it feels like to me is I'll be like, oh, it almost feels like an old part of reality that I know to be really intrinsic to my reality is like everywhere. It feels like I feel it all over the place. And I don't know, it almost feels like I'm kind of like cleansing through that as it's out there. And in the last like week, there's been some really, really big kind of intense ones where it's been these really big, we've had some amazing, beautiful, even like little event like moments where there's these big changes and these big weather things happening. And I feel so blissful and amazing. And it feels like the world changes. And then another layer kind of comes up and it feels so big and intense. And I feel like I'm healing with it. And it's like part of our reality that we've known that's been intrinsic to us forever. It kind of comes to the surface and then it kind of lets itself go and then the world changes. That's what I've been feeling. It's
very much like seeing the dirt in order to clean the house. We don't get to bypass that.
Exactly. It's a nice thought that everything is just going to be like gone, but I think that's part of our learning, and that's kind of part of maybe how the universe works. For something to heal itself, you kind of have to. There's some awareness that happens with it. There's some kind of like learning or feeling of it before it just disappears. Yeah.
Well, we dispatched a spirit into a physical body, and that is a kind of duality. The duality is the experience of that leads us back to the one, and it's expansion. That's God created Himself. We're expressions of God or primal energy or source energy or creator energy in order for the universe to know itself more and to expand. And so however, to whatever degree of the duality or contrast, it's still just a part of the journey. Otherwise, we would be just one, which we are in the highest truth. There wouldn't be a journey.
Totally.
All right. Well, I think we are just about out of time. Sam, would you please tell everyone how they can get in touch with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm just on YouTube, Modern Spirituality. So if you'd like to check out what I'm doing and the videos that we're making, you can just go to Modern Spirituality on YouTube, check it out, see if it's for you. Love to have you there. And yeah, that's where to reach me.
I have to tell you, I had Nikki Sutton on a couple of weeks ago. She's really lovely, spiritual teacher on YouTube. And she has a really beautiful voice, British accent. And she told me, I don't remember if she told me during the show or after the show, she said to me about my show, well, that's proper light work you're doing, isn't it? So that's what I want to say to you. That's proper light work you're doing, isn't it, Sam?
Thank you so much. That's the best compliment ever. And it's very much returned to you, Tricia. It's so lovely to hang and chat with you. It's always fun.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll come on again. And I'm so excited to see how your work continues to evolve. Wow, how exciting. I want to catch the wave that you're riding and observe that, because I think it's really beautiful. And thank you for being that. Thank you for following your gifts and your abilities and following your heart above all, because that is proper light work and healing the plane. I'm not mocking. So I'm not mocking. I'm doing the flattering thing of the
I love it.
She's wonderful. All right. Well, Sam, I hope you will come back again. Thank you so much for being on the show again today.
Tricia.
My pleasure. And thank you all for watching and listening. I will see you again next week live from Universal Broadcasting Network at 11 a.m. Pacific, or on any of the YouTube or podcast outlets you can find by searching me, Tricia Carr, Charmed Life with Tricia Carr. And thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.